now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands. Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today.
Okay, good morning, folks, and welcome to another segment of the Cold Hard Truth. It is Friday. Can you guys believe it? I cannot believe it. It is July the 10th already. I had a rough night. How was yours? All I can tell you is when you have got a toddler, I don't know whoever said that after baby 6 months, you can sleep through the night, because they did not meet my daughter. And I suspect that it's probably a lot of other children that are very much like that. So some nights she just has a warm time sleeping, and that means that literally she is up every single hour on the hour. So somebody's asking me about Margaritaville. If there's any updates, trust me, that is going to be a long process. So yes, good morning to Jackie. Good morning, Bonnie. Good morning, Atlas. Good morning, Joy. Hi, Gina. Barbara is here for it. Yeah, people think that's going to be resolved quickly. I'm sorry to say that if you are owed money by Margaritaville, get prepared to wait. It's definitely going to be a long haul. Hi, Debbie. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this morning. It's a beautiful morning here in the Cayman Islands. Like I was just saying, a rough night for me in terms of sleep. But hey, we're up and at it, and we got lots to get done today. So Fridays I find are always really busy for me. But then again, that's probably more or less every day. But yes, I've got a long list of things that I have to do today, as well as a little bit of physiotherapy. So I'm going to be going off to that appointment a bit later on this morning. It's so nice to be able to get some appointments in for stuff like, dental appointments, physiotherapy and that sort of thing. The baby has a dental appointment tomorrow. I think this is her 4th or 5th appointment now. You take them every 6 months, get them used to going to the dentist, and hopefully realizing the importance of all the things that you're trying to enforce at home, the brushing of the teeth and so on. A 3-year-old they don't know what cavities are and that sort of thing. So, it's hard to explain these things to them. It's hard to explain germs and why you want to make sure that you brush your teeth. But it's all about good habits, right? And hopefully eventually they will get there. So Barbara, no, I don't consider myself a super mom at all, girl. I'm just doing my most important job. And unfortunately, that means that sometimes there will be sleepless nights. And we're trying to transition her. She's going to be 4 next month. And we are trying to transition her now a little bit into her own room where, she's going to get her furniture. Everything's been ordered. Her room was just painted. So as she sees the transformation of the room, she's getting excited. So the room got painted this week and she's like, oh, I love my colors. And, we have this whole decor thing. We're doing like a little bit of a Frozen theme, like we're pulling out some of those colors like the aquas and the kind of like a little bit of a purple and blue, and just trying to put it together where when she walks in there, she can own it. She's gonna love it. It almost feels like a playroom a little bit instead of a bedroom. And then yeah, hopefully that means she'll want to sleep in it at night. So we're getting there one step at a time. Good morning, Charlene. Good morning, Cecile. Happy Friday to you as well. Kathy, good morning to the beautiful Kathy Phillips. How are you, Kathy? Elizabeth, buenos dias. Thank you so much for tuning in. And who else is here? Lisa. Hey, Lisa, all the way from Cayman Brac. Thank you so much, Lisa. What is going on in the Brac, my dear? How is life there? The Brac is always such a laid back environment. You go there for vacation. Somebody was saying, I think it was yesterday, Quincy was saying that people should consider a staycation in the Brac, and I couldn't agree more. Like if you really want to de-stress, that's a place to go. Even here, a lot of people did staycations over the past weekend, and I understand the Kimpton was really busy, and the Kimpton has some kind of daycation kind of concept where you can go for the day and you can kind of hang out there. So some people are taking advantage of that. You get like different things, that are made available to you. So yeah, some persons are taking advantage of just going to the beach, lounging in a beach chair, having a glass of whatever it is that they're serving. And, just gives you, even if it's just, listen, even if you get 4 or 5 hours to de-stress, it is certainly better than no hours at all. So I think that that is the way to go. If you're interested in doing those sorts of things, then by all means, sorry, definitely check it out. What I would say is there are a lot of places on island now that I see that are welcoming, sort of the staycation crowd. And traditionally, you would not have gotten an invite to their facilities at all. So it's really interesting how people's policies and the way that they think and how they treat people changes when they are desperate to make some money, because those properties could very well be boarded up for quite some time. So we shall see. But yes, I think the Brac is a wonderful choice because it's like relaxing at a totally different level. You honestly just are gonna chill out. Not a whole lot to do. Sharon, good morning to you. Evelyn is here. Good morning, Morna. She says it's a beautiful Friday. And yes, it is. Lisa says, yes, it's peaceful, very peaceful. And so you can meditate and be thankful. And peace and quiet are things that we don't always get to enjoy. And, it's kind of one of those things that when you're in the moment, you don't even know how hectic your life is until you stop. And then you breathe a little bit and you're like, wow, I've had a really busy day. Or I've had a really, like when you're forced to take a proper vacation, because a lot of us, when we take vacations, we actually end up doing more on a vacation sometimes than just a regular schedule because we're running up and down shopping or we're trying to go to different, venues to check things out. And a vacation in large part should be, yes, about experiencing new and different things, but also about rejuvenation and just relaxing and taking it easy and not being on the wheel, the hamster wheel constantly. So I think that sometimes as people, we just get into this mode where we're like, let's just fit in as much into our day as possible and get as much done, when in fact, what we should be trying to focus on is just breathing easily, allowing our bodies to like just regenerate, take a break, and sometimes even just get some sleep. Like, how many of us are not getting enough sleep? We need that rest. And so, yeah, I think we need to even redefine how we take vacations. That was one of the good things about COVID. How many of you were forced to adjust like everything in your lives because of COVID-19 shutdown? You couldn't go anywhere. So what did you do? You found stuff to do at home. So some of you did more cooking, did more baking. spent more time with the kids because you had no choice. Some of you were able to catch up on maybe TV shows that you've been meaning to watch for a minute. And yeah, you just got to relax a little bit. I mean, I took naps during COVID shutdown that ordinarily, I'm like, oh, I'd love to take a nap today. And it just never seems to happen. Well, during COVID, there was opportunities to nap. And I thought that was fantastic. So Vanessa, thank you for tuning in. Buenos dias. I think already I said to Elizabeth. Melita, good morning to you, my dear. So what is on fleek this morning, folks? What is going on? The funeral of the late Robert Hamity is going to be this weekend on Saturday, June the 13th. We're going to post that up here on our website in a little bit for those of you who are interested in finding out more about that. It will be live streamed, which is one of the new things that we have adopted for COVID-19 is that everybody's live streaming. The irony of it is those of us who were live streaming before COVID-19, such as ourselves here, we took it to even another level. So as many of you know, I wasn't doing a morning show and I transitioned into doing a morning show. And it turns out the morning show is extremely popular. You guys are here for it every single morning. And you guys seem to really enjoy it. So I'm trying to find a way to integrate that into our ongoing, sort of scheduling and seeing how I can make that work. And yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. I think that live streaming offers so many opportunities to be able to connect with people and to just, we couldn't meet face to face. So it's like we needed a way to just communicate and to check in with people. And one of the things that I noticed, especially when we were doing on location stuff during the COVID shutdown, as soon as we would go live, literally we would have hundreds of people within the first couple minutes just jump in on the live stream to see, what was going on, what was the latest and that sort of thing. So thank you guys so much for that support. Times have changed to some extent. We always try to be a little bit ahead of the curve, so to speak, because live streaming is certainly nothing that is new. And, we've been trying to integrate into it for quite some time now. So Olivia, good morning to you. Josephine, good morning, honey. How are you? So we're coming up shortly on having to decide the name of our new youth program that we're going to do with young people. We're going to be giving them an opportunity to have their voice be heard on this platform on a regular basis. So next week, we're going to start filtering through all of the name submissions that have been made. And I want you guys to tune in. We'll have a show where the entire show will be dedicated to simply picking a name. So I will let you guys know in advance what day that will be so that you can all tune in and you can all participate in the process. So one lucky individual, a young person, is going to win a packet that's valued like over $500. That includes food gift certificates from like 3 different restaurants. There is a coat of arms pendant courtesy of Prodigy Jewelers. There is a streaming box, the latest 4K streaming box with 1 month of content provided at no cost from Roku. So it's an absolutely nice package, and $100 as well. So they get some cash thrown in there. Here's all the prizes, and they get a PlayStation gift card as well. So this is a wonderful prize. So again, if you have any young person that has not yet had the opportunity to participate in this little name the show contest, please, by all means, encourage them to get on it and to do so. So we'll repost it because I know there's one post up now that people have been commenting on. So I might repost that, or I might just tag it at the top of the page, because sometimes you want all the comments like in one sort of central area, right? So that we can just go into that one post and see exactly who submitted comments and so on, name suggestions. So totally excited about that. So thank you guys so much for having your young people participate. Kathy says, I must say, during COVID, because of being high risk, I had to stay home and it gave me time to refocus. I actually now miss the quiet, somewhat serene peace of the island slowing down for a while. And Kathy, you know what? You're not the only one who misses it, because all of a sudden now, yesterday we had how many accidents? Like 2 or 3 vehicular accidents. There was one with a bike later on in the evening. There was one after 5 o'clock in Lower Valley. So we all miss the quietness of the roads. Trust me. I was so looking forward to, it used to be nice just to go on the road. You hardly saw any traffic. And when you did, people were driving very cautiously. There was a lot of police presence during the COVID shutdown. So that was kind of nice as well. Hail Up came on and the CMR hosting crew. Thank you so much, Louie. Louie, all the way from Detroit. Lisa says, I love watching your program. I've learned so much, even legal issues you mentioned on your program that I never knew. Thanks for keeping us informed with what is going on here and around the world. Thank you so much, Lisa. Yeah, I really do my best to try to inform people on a broad subject area. So we talk about everything on this program. There's no holds bar. So we talk about, COVID, obviously, medical things. We try to talk about dispelling any myths or misinformation is out there. Anything that's topical, race relations. Like, I believe in trying to always level up your performance, always keep on top of things, always try to educate yourself. None of us know it all. I'm not a know-it-all. None of us know it all. But I think that once you are willing to learn something new and you are willing to be open, right? So just open your mind to information. You don't have to accept everything that you hear, because there's so much of it that is just pure foolishness, to be quite frank and honest. It is not even worth your time sometimes engaging. But, from my perspective, I still listen to what people have to say, although I'm not going to necessarily agree with it, or I think some of them are crazy as batshit crazy. I'll still listen to it and I'll go, huh. And then I want to think deeper, like, why do people think that? Like someone said to me the other day, this whole COVID thing is going to just disappear after the elections in the US after November. So mark your calendars, folks. We'll see how that goes. But I thought to myself, so now there's a conspiracy that this has been created to somehow undermine the president of the United States. I mean, imagine the thought process that someone must be engaging in to believe that. A worldwide pandemic that has infected, let me just check the recent numbers, because my God, the numbers are astonishing to say the least. But someone would dare, come up with a thing like COVID just to undermine the president of the United States. So in the US alone, they've got over 3 million cases now confirmed. And as we've said on this program before, that is actually considered to be an underestimate, because a lot of people will have had COVID in other jurisdictions that are asymptomatic, or they may think it's something else because it's very mild, and so they don't bother to get tested. So it's quite crazy to think that these are the numbers that we are dealing with. So worldwide, I think we're now, yes, over 12,000 confirmed cases. Over 3,000 of those are in the US, and another almost 2,000 of those are in Brazil. So the top 5, rounding it out, the US, Brazil, India, Russia, and Peru. Peru and Chile kind of snuck up there. The UK is not far behind Chile, and the UK's handling of this doesn't seem to be all that wonderful either. So the US has gotten hit particularly hard by this. And a lot of people see the failures of American policy as the reason why they have gotten hit by this. And we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning. But if you are a Trump supporter, you are more inclined to believe that this is all about him. I mean, this sounds very narcissistic, but this is all about him. And so someone created this virus in order to undermine the US process, the election process, and to ensure that Trump did not get reelected, because somehow whoever designed this virus would have predicted how Trump would have handled it, and that he would have handled it so incredibly poorly. And now he's forcing schools to reopen. If you think it's bad now, he's telling schools next month that if they do not reopen, they will not get federal funding. So we're about to go from bad to worse, as Caymanians would say. Okay, so give me one quick second. I'm going to take a quick commercial break because I just realized that I did not grab my glass of water, and I'm starting to get a little bit dry and thirsty. So I'm going to grab some water here. Kathy says she is looking forward to the new show. David is talking about testing that's available. So we could perhaps, David, you should probably contact us from the Doctor's Hospital about coming on the program. Louis says very educational and biblical as it relates to the cold hard truth. Yes, people often forget that the Bible talks a lot about the truth. So let's just take a quick little break here, folks. I will be right back after these messages.
Oh, land of soft, fresh breezes, of verdant trees so fair, with the Creator's glory reflected everywhere.
A sea of palest emerald merged into darkest blue.
Whenever my thoughts fly onward, I always think of you.
Dear verdant island set
In blue Caribbean sea, I'm coming very soon.
oh beauteous isle to thee. Although I wander far,
My heart enshrines thee at homeland. There came an hours I cannot forget.
Okay, folks, welcome back. Got my glass of water now, so we are all set to go for the morning. I'm keeping an eye out of my peripheral vision here for my little friend that walks by every morning, the agouti. I'm not sure if it's actually the exact same agouti, because I do know that there are clusters of them. So they do live in family groupings. And sometimes, like, you'll see one run across the street to forage in the bushes where they go. And you think that that's the only one, but I've seen upwards of like 3 and 4 kind of together at one time. I don't know if the daddy agouti goes up first and then the rest of them kind of follow behind. But one day, my little mischievous Coco, the dog, saw one, and she kind of ran over there to see what was going on. And he or she, I don't know what it was, but it actually ran further into the bushes. And then all of a sudden I saw like 2 more kind of running in that area, which I hadn't seen. So yeah, quite interesting. So in terms of the coronavirus, over 12,000 cases worldwide yet, so far, I should say. And again, these are underestimates to a large extent. They say that the real infection rate could be anywhere from 5 to 10 times that. depending on which models you believe or you look at, right? Either way, that's a lot of people. There was a Miami-Dade bus driver who died of COVID as the virus leaves the county understaffed. Riders are often stuck. So he died after COVID-19 diagnosis on Thursday. It was confirmed. So really, really sad. There's so many people, unfortunately, that are dying from this. And the trend now that they're seeing is that it's actually younger people under 60, because at first it was like we were kind of all thinking, oh, this is a disease that is really just targeting the older population. And that still remains, by and large, relatively true. However, just because you're young doesn't mean that you're going to get a pass from COVID-19. So there are a lot of young, healthy individuals that this disease has ravished. If it hasn't taken their lives in the end, it leaves them with long-term health issues and concerns. So, we saw that actor the other day. I think he was 40 or 41. He died after a really long battle with it. Some people defy logic, like they're older and they somehow manage to survive. Of course, as with any virus, there's so many factors that will play into your survival rate or not of this disease and how it could potentially impact you. So we do know that anyone with underlying health conditions is at higher risk. So whether that health condition means you're diabetic or you have fought off cancer before, like all of these things mean that you could potentially have a compromised immune system, and that makes you a higher risk individual. However, there are perfectly healthy people that this virus has proven that it will make a mockery of your health and your youthfulness, and it will kill you. It's killing children and babies, and it seems to have no mercy at all. So I have someone actually sent me something yesterday. I'm just trying to find this. I think you'll find this to be quite interesting as well. This was a graph actually showing you what your potential infection risk is depending on the activities that you engage in. So this is super awesome in terms of information, not super awesome in terms of catching it in any way, shape, or form. But let me just show you guys this, because I think you'll find this interesting. And this also comes back to the point of really understanding when you reopen, how you're reopening different segments of the population and what added risk that actually brings to the general community as well, right? So summer camps are starting up. We see in the US, for example, that there has been an outbreak. This is a story that I posted this morning, and I was having a read of this. I mean, this is just unbelievable, but there's been an outbreak of COVID-19, of the coronavirus, in a summer camp, and some 80-something persons were infected, mostly children, and then some of the staff as well. I'm in a couple Facebook groups, the KY Mommies and the Real Women of Cayman. And a lot of moms listen, I think they're just fed up with the kids, let's be honest. I mean, if you got 4 and 5 kids, or even if you have 2 kids, they have basically, they need the break. They're like, can I just get a break now? So this says coronavirus sweeps summer camp, infects 82 campers, counselors, and staff in Missouri. So this is concerning, not just because of this particular situation, but this has also been concerning for, just campers. Anytime you get people in larger crowds and children who, again, we've discussed before, children, even teenagers, they don't wash their hands as often. They're not sanitizing as often. They can't help but touch their faces. Sometimes we can't help it. It's just a reflective, an automatic thing that we do and not even recognize that we're doing it. And so, it does create a little bit more of a recipe for disaster, I think. I think also that people here are very, very complacent in the sense that we think, listen, we've gone over a week now, which is amazing, with no new positive cases. And that's fantastic news. But I feel like every day that we have no new positive case, people kind of get a little bit more laid back and they think we're doing great, which we are. But let's not rest on our laurels. Let's not just say, oh, reopen the borders. We're set to go. Let's go open up this country. I saw someone posting, oh, they've got, a car here and a residence here. When are the borders going to reopen so that they can come back in? And I'm thinking, what did you just ask? Like, seriously, the quickest way to undo everything that we have done thus far is to prematurely open our borders. Simple as that. First of all, the US is being hammered in a way by this coronavirus that is just shocking. Yesterday proved to be another record-breaking day for them. More than 59,400 infections, new coronavirus cases yesterday. So the results came in yesterday, so this would have been new as of Wednesday. So almost 60,000. Remember when I was telling you guys just a few days ago that Dr. Anthony Fauci, or Fucci, depending on how you pronounce it, he was saying that, they're going to probably reach 100,000 cases in the US a day. And 100,000 cases a day, an analyst was saying that, listen, Dr. Fauci, you got to look up his history. He's worked with the AIDS epidemic. He's been involved in a lot of things for a really long time, and he is seen as a very experienced man in his profession. And one thing people know about him is he's not someone who's going to hyperinflate anything. So if he says 100,000 cases, he tends to be more on the conservative side. So 100,000 cases is him being conservative, meaning it's probably going to go above the 100,000 cases. So for the US, that represents the 5th record. So they keep breaking their own record in 9 days. So again, this is not a good situation for them at all. And as such, I think that the reopening of our borders is going to present some very tricky dilemmas that I'm not sure how we would possibly manage, considering what is at stake here. First of all, every single flight or every single day that Cayman Airways flies, we go into Miami, New York. Who are we going to be bringing in? So we're going into the hearts of basically the epicenter of these outbreaks. Florida is now one of the hardest hit states. They had the other day, they set a new record as well. Over 11,000 new cases in one day for the state of Florida. In more than half of the US, the spread has gotten worse. So some 24 states reported more cases over the past week than in any other 7-day stretch of the pandemic. So this is not getting any better for the Americans. So we reopen our borders, and then what? Reopen it to the Americans. I mentioned a few days ago that a private jet of Americans, because when people have money, they think that they're above the law and above the rules. They flew into Greece, and they were turned back. Once they saw that they were Americans, they had their American passports. They were like, listen, you're not disembarking this private plane. We might help you refuel, but you are not coming here. The European Union has partially reopened with the exception of allowing Americans in. And they're not the only ones who are doing it. Mexico is saying, we don't want them either. So isn't it ironic? Trump wanted to build a wall, and here he's kind of getting his wish indirectly, because the pandemic has built this wall keeping Americans in. And trust me, it seems like Americans now more than ever want to travel, which is unbelievable, but they have no desire to, stay home, stay put. They want to jump on a plane and go on a vacation. And a lot of these countries are saying, hold on, not so quickly. That is just not going to happen. So Louis says here that that guy, meaning Trump, is a freaking idiot. So many Christians support this man and deceive themselves. Barb Marley said the truth is an offense, but not a sin. Amen. Something to learn about truth is it's not easy to digest always, but it's unchangeable. Everything else is a lie. Good morning, Sue. Thank you for tuning in. Catherine. Kathy says, off topic, where can I get a CMR t-shirt? Future CMR reporter asking. One of the things definitely, Kathy, as part of our growth process and of just leveling up in 2020 is we need to get some CMR merchandise. The kids on Instagram have been asking me that for a minute. We do have CMR mugs. I do need to get some more of those ordered. But yeah, we need some merchandise. We need some, I've got my staff shirt, as you guys can see. Sometimes I wear these like on location stuff. But yeah, we need to start getting I want to do phone cases because everything is done on the phone now. You guys are like sending your tips on the phone, you're messaging us. So wouldn't it be cool to have the phone casings for the different model phones that you can put on, and it has CMR logo and whatever in the back. Definitely, I think we need to do some shirts. We need to do mugs. Yeah, people want to represent, Kathy. So I'm all for you I'm all with you in terms of that suggestion for sure. So we are potentially considering, as of this moment, reopening our borders in September. I think, if I had to make a prediction, I would say that was a humongous mistake for us to even be thinking that. And here we are in July. So that's less than 2 months away. Listen to this. Some states have more new cases per capita than even the hardest hit countries. So let's understand what we mean when we say that. Arizona, if we were to just do it by the strict numbers, Arizona is number 1. Bahrain is number 4. Shocking. So whilst President Trump is trying to pressure schools into reopening in the fall, and the fall for them means like literally next month, he's getting a lot of criticism and a lot of flack because, unfortunately, the US it hasn't even peaked yet. And it's like, why are you trying to force? And he's telling schools, if you do not reopen, we're going to pull federal funding from you. And, this is what it is. So there is no country in the world where confirmed coronavirus cases are growing as rapidly as they are in Arizona, Florida, or South Carolina. The South Belt, as that area is called, has become the global virus capital. I want that to sink in for a minute. So no country in the world has more confirmed cases. Corona cases are growing as rapidly, I should say, as Arizona, Florida, or South Carolina. And where does Cayman Airways fly in and out of every single day? Miami, Florida. So if we were to compare countries over the past week, and again, it's adjusted for population size. So they're basically treating each US state as if it were a country. Many states are larger in both landmass and population than some countries. We can see how, unfortunately, the picture here literally is very, very dismal. And I'm going to just pull this up so that you guys can see it. Because as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In this case, apparently it's worth 1,000,000. 1 second here for me. It's worth 3 million plus COVID infections at least. So it's shocking. But this is what we're talking about here, folks. This is what we're talking about here. So let me just save this image so you can all see what I'm seeing in terms of the graph. And the magnitude of this is quite shocking, to be honest. So let me just pull this up. Big shout out to some of our sponsors, folks. Popeyes, thank you guys so much for your continued support. Burger King, they have contributed to the gift pack for the young person who's going to win the that prize that I was telling you guys that's valued over $500. We also have Lavinia's Kitchen. We actually purchased a gift certificate to go into the prize pack from Lavinia. You guys know she does awesome local food. I think yesterday, like lobster was on the menu. Big shout out to Miracle Brokers. Listen, Miracle Brokers has got things going on. If you're part of the Filipino community, you'll know that they do these boxes, these where you can pack up a box of whether you need to send your family goods, or if you were returning home, sometimes you just want to pack a box of your stuff ahead of you going because you can't take everything in your suitcase. And Miracle Brokers has this, there's an actual Filipino word for it. I'll have to look at the correct pronunciation so that I don't stand up here and sound like the Minister of Health with mispronouncing stuff, but I'll get the correct pronunciation for you guys. But yeah, they do these box packages and you can send them all the way to the Philippines, and it's a good rate and it's very well organized. And, you know, I'm about to try out their sister company, which is Aeropost, with ordering some stuff off of Amazon. So this is going to be my first kind of big purchase of anything really, post or during COVID shutdown, because I can't get to Miami and I do need to order a few things for myself and the baby. I told you guys at the beginning of the show, we're kind of working on decorating her room, right? So look at this map, folks. Back on topic. Just a shout out to some of our sponsors. World's worst outbreaks, Arizona. And again, this is, they've adjusted the numbers for population size. And so this is what it is. If Arizona was a country, they would be number one. If Florida was a country, they would be number two. If South Carolina was a country, they would be number three. Then Bahrain, which is an actual country. Then Louisiana, Qatar, Oman, Alabama, it goes on and on and on, right? So we can see that unfortunately, they're not doing a very good job at this at all. And, you know, it's just not good. It's just not good. So let me just pull up something here. Sorry. All right, so yeah, these are scary numbers. This is not impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And so we all need to be beyond concerned here, folks, in terms of what this means for travel in and out of the US. Listen, the US is a country, they can make their own decisions. They can do whatever it is that they want to do, but we don't live in a bubble. You know, this is why I'm always a bit perplexed when people say, well, your name is Cayman Mall Road. Why are you reporting on stuff that's happening in Jamaica or anywhere else in the world? I'm like, do we look like we live in a world where the Cayman Islands isn't impacted by anybody else? We can just live here. We're not concerned about what happens around the world. I mean, if anything that we have learned from this pandemic, it is a very stark lesson and how as a world, we are actually so incredibly interconnected, right? So that's why countries had to shut down their borders, because international travel now is the main way in which infections will quickly spread from one country to the next and one part of the world to the next. So while Trump is still blaming China for this starting in China, which we know that Wuhan was indeed the epicenter of this situation, it quickly spread because people love to travel and people are all over the world, and that's what people do. So we don't live in a bubble. We don't live in isolation. And this pandemic has proved more than ever that the ability of us to quickly hop around the world, by plane in particular, can be extremely detrimental to the spreading of any sort of infectious diseases. And of course, this has been, the biggest one that we've had to deal with in quite some time. And speaking of that, there's another respiratory illness that they're monitoring that already has killed some 1,700, yes, people. I forget where that is, so I don't want to misspeak, but I think it's somewhere in the Middle East. So now they're watching for, what is this exactly? Is this some sort of a variant of COVID-19, or is this something completely new that we need to keep an eye on? So, the Americans will make their decisions. And if they make their decisions, President Trump, that causes the pandemic to continue to spread there in that country, then, it's just going to impact us all. And it will definitely, as close as we are to them, and the fact that we have to fly in once we reopen our borders into the American territory, and we operate, Cayman Airways operates by FAA rules. In fact, we are really asking for a disastrous situation. Even in terms of the UK, listen, the UK is high up on that list as well. I think they're number 5 or 6. And so the situation in the UK isn't as wonderful as we would want to think either. They have not been a shining example of how to handle the COVID-19 pandemic at all. And in fact, a lot of people say, well, maybe they're testing more. No. They're not testing more people at all. Some low-income countries might appear on the list, if they were actually conducting more tests. So that's accepted. But the truth of the matter is, jurisdictions or countries like the US and like the UK do not have an unusually high testing rate for a rich country. And so if you want any information on that, trust me, the data is there to prove the point. Because a lot of people are like, well, how does this testing per capita thing work, and testing rates and blah, blah, blah. It's not that they are testing a lot of people. And mostly they're testing people who are presenting themselves with symptoms. And of course, we did see early on, we were saying this, that South Korea was really big on the testing model. And finally, when we got with the program and saw how incredibly important testing was, because testing allows you to do a lot of things, tracing and treatment, and also gives you an idea of the scale of the infection that you're dealing with in your own jurisdiction. And as we know here in the Cayman Islands, the vast majority of persons who have been tested, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say the vast majority of them are actually presenting as asymptomatic individuals. So they would have never gotten tested had we not undertaken a policy of test as much as we can, because they've had no symptoms. But remember, just because you're asymptomatic does not mean that you're not spreading it. And so that in and of itself, I think, is really, really important. Someone sent me a graph yesterday. I'm trying to remember where I saved it. I'll pull that up here in a second if I can. About the importance of wearing your mask and how it can offer you protection. Like, it was showing if 2 people don't wear a mask, how much they're sharing. If one person wears a mask, how much then is spread. And if they're both wearing a mask, it cuts it down significantly. So the wearing of masks continues to be, if you can't maintain the adequate social distancing space, continues to be one of the suggestions on trying to, cut down on the rate of infection. So this says that despite having the highest rate of tests per capita, this is now in the US faces the largest outbreak in the world, and new cases continue to trend upwards in many states. And some people were mentioning to me yesterday that they thought it was because of the Black Lives Matter protests. And in fact, the research has shown that it has nothing to do with that. You want to know where people are getting infected? Let me bring up the next graph. Because human beings are such peculiar little creatures, right? We are so funny. But most of our infections, look at this graph, folks. Look at where we are getting infected. Isn't this crazy? Most of our infections are actually coming from the bars. I mean, people, think about this, right? So this graph breaks it down very, very easily. So you've got your risk, low to moderate, moderate to high, and high risk. And then it tells you the different types of activities. So if you're opening the mail, that's considered low risk. If you're getting restaurant takeout, pumping gasoline, playing tennis, going camping, those are all very low risk things. Then you get into low to moderate, sitting in a doctor's waiting room, staying at a hotel for 2 nights, playing golf, going for a walk or run, grocery shopping. So those are all relatively low risk. Spending an hour at a playground. Then you start to get into moderate things, swimming in a public pool. So now you can see why, even with the reopening that we've gone through in terms of the suppression levels, you can see why certain activities are grouped the way in which they are. So everybody was going on and on about the strata pools, that's a moderate risk situation. So that's why it took a little bit longer as we moved into level 2 suppression to be able to get there. Eating in a restaurant inside, that's now moderate high, right? Playing contact sports like football and basketball. And again, that is precisely why those things were reserved until a little bit later. Look at number 7 under moderate high, attending a wedding or funeral. That's why there's still some restrictions in terms of the numbers in those areas. The graph continues. So eating at a buffet is high risk. And in fact, in a lot of restaurants in the US in particular, they're looking at getting rid of buffet eating altogether, because you're all touching the same utensils and breathing over the food, and it's just extremely high risk. Working out at the gym is high risk. Going to an amusement park where you have tons of people is high risk. Movie theaters is high risk. Any sort of large concerts or arenas, sports stadiums, etc. Attending a religious service with 500 plus worshipers is high risk. And the highest of the highest, going to a bar. Mic drop. And, not only do you have tons of people together crowded into one area, but you also have people who are drinking and who are not probably using social distancing. They're not going to wear their mask once they start drinking. And, they start to get a little bit inebriated. They get stupid. The police show up. They want to fight off the police. I heard at some establishment the other day that there was a woman sitting on the lap of a patron and dancing or gyrating on his lap or whatever. So no social distancing whatsoever. Isn't that crazy? So yes, Carol, and our bars are open. That is exactly what it is. Odette, good morning. I'm hoping that I can get together with you today because I've got a gift certificate that you wanted to give you. Jonathan says, I hear people come to Cayman private jets. They only need to be in quarantine for 5 days. Is that true? Jonathan, if I were actually allowed into the prep briefings, that would be one of the questions that I would be asking. We are working on that situation to see if we can get that resolved, but by then there won't be any more prep briefings probably for a while anyway. Carol, I agree. We do not need to open or reopen in September. Not even by a long shot. We're probably looking realistic at 2021. Morna says it's not over yet, and really we have no idea when it's going away anytime soon. Summer camp, not in my book this year. Keep safe, Cayman. We're doing fantastic about the testing so far. Catherine says, I always thought that some people, that some Americans think that they're better than the rest of us. Well, Americans probably say that about English people and Canadians too. So I think it's just one of those things where Americans have a reputation that precedes them, but I reckon that so do a lot of other nationalities. But yeah, they do have a certain attitude about them sometimes, I think, that can certainly rub you the wrong way. But they're not the only ones, is the point. So Kathy Phillips says, Please, a lot of people are interested. People represent their number one news source. Thank you for the vote of confidence, Sir Kathy. Really appreciate it. And I love your little what's the little when you create your little character? What is that character called again? Is it Emoji Con or whatever? That one that you've designed there is super cute. Kathy also says that I have a local resident say to me that if we don't reopen, we're going to starve. I replied, I'd rather starve a bit versus being 6 feet under. And poor people know how to survive. Believe me, it won't hurt us. I mean, it's going to hurt us somewhat. But at the end of the day, are we actually going to starve? I'm not so sure about that. I think that we will find a way to sustain eating. Institutions such as banks and other loan facilities, the government may have to look at some measures to kind of help people out, small businesses who are hurting and so on. But the alternative, and we were talking about Sweden the other day, is that we reopen prematurely and a little bit too quickly. And then what happens? It's not going to help your economy. Listen to me. When you are fighting COVID-19 and you have things happening where almost 50 hospital beds or hospitals in the state of Florida are maxed out to capacity. They have no room to take anybody in, right? People are hooked up to ventilators. People are trying to, whatever treatments they think may currently be working, they're trying to get enough of that treatment in order to assist them with potentially surviving and the recovery process. There's no vaccine. There's really no super effective treatment at this particular time. They're spending probably, it's going to go into the billions of dollars to try to find a vaccine. So the federal government, listen to this, has already said that it will pay the drug maker Novavax $1.6 billion to develop a successful vaccine and produce 100 million doses by early 2021. Now here, this is the best part. It's a big bet on a company that has never brought a product to market. People, when I tell you there's something seriously wrong with the Trump administration and the people that a lot of the people that he's hired and that follow his way of thinking, I mean, I can't make this stuff up. I don't care one way or the other about Trump. But when I read things like this, you're going to pay a company $1.6 billion to develop a successful vaccine, and they have no track record of ever bringing anything to market. It really does make you wonder what the hell is going on. But yeah, it's a Maryland-based company. They've never brought a single product to market before. And the Trump administration has called it Operation Warp Speed. They come up with such fancy and funny names. So they're willing to pay the vaccine maker, which I don't know how they vaccine maker if they've never actually made anything. But anyway, to expedite the development of a coronavirus vaccine. This is going to be like, you can already see the writing on the wall in terms of the type of epic failures that could come out of this, right? And this is only going to perpetrate, like, everyone who is an anti-vaxxer or who has a conspiracy theory about vaccines. When they screw this up, this is only going to further those types of propaganda beliefs, right? So here it is. The federal government is so desperate for vaccine because of their failures in handling this whole situation. They're willing to pay this company almost $2 billion. It says that they've already invested nearly $4 billion in companies pursuing the vaccines, but so far have produced very little information about how Operation Warp Speed is spending its money and which agencies the funding is actually coming from, or how decisions are being made. Because remember now, the US is in debt, so this money is coming from somewhere. So it's probably coming from some healthcare facility or schools to educate children or whatever. So far, all of this billions of dollars, the $4 billion, has gone to 6 companies with varying track records and in some cases promising but untested technologies. They have a British drug maker, AstraZeneca. I've heard that one before. I feel like they've made something before because I've definitely seen commercials from them. They've received $1.2 billion in federal assistance for their vaccine. Sorry, my lack of sleep is catching up with my eyes here. All of a sudden, they're just feeling very, very dry. So there's AstraZeneca that has gotten $1.2 billion of federal assistance. They claim that they're using a harmless virus to provoke an immune response. We'll see. Nothing yet. Then there is Moderna Therapeutics. They've received over $500 million, and they have also never brought a product to market. And they're looking to use genetic technology that they claim is valuable for its speed. But again, it has never led to a successful human vaccine. So there's lots of money being spent around the world, definitely by the Americans, to try to hurry up and find the solution, because heaven forbid the solution of doing the right thing, of staying in quarantine, of keeping social distancing, of not going to bars in droves. None of that has worked for them because they refuse to do the hard work. They refuse to do the things that will actually, reap benefits. So Congress has appropriated another $10 billion to support the development of coronavirus treatment or a vaccine, whichever comes first. But they're not giving a whole lot of details. So a lot of these companies are getting contracts as drug manufacturers to try to develop something, and they're probably not even, right now, this is probably just free money for them because Americans are so desperate that it looks like they're just willing to throw anything at anyone and say, just go at it. No accountability of how the money is being spent. And then we'll see if anything comes out, if anything sticks to the wall eventually. So we'll see. Vaccines normally take years to develop, and many of them fail in clinical trials when they turn out to be either ineffective or they have such serious side effects that they cannot be utilized on the general public. So they're trying to push forward a very aggressive timeline that has a lot of people concerned, because at the end of the day, you cannot force the situation in terms of the development of a vaccine. It's going to take time. And so originally we said, the experts are saying 12 to 18 months would be the best possible time frame for a potential virus. But in fact, the average time is much more than that. So it could take a while. So the Trump administration, government officials are being called overly optimistic for their thinking that this is something that can happen in a very short space of time. It's not that companies are not trying. Trust me, they've got scientists, I'm sure, in their labs that are working 24/7, but it's just not as simple as that, is it? And, there's now concern that this virus is already starting to mutate. So even if you find a virus for the current, or a vaccination for the current strain, there could be some mutations that would alter all of that. Yeah. So the other thing that you have to be concerned about is some of these deals, apparently, with this Novavax people, would allow them to begin manufacturing the vaccine before the company concludes late-stage clinical trials. And this now is where people who don't trust governments and don't trust vaccines in a pandemic like this would have reasons to be concerned. I'm not generally an anti-vaxxer kind of person. I don't necessarily believe in conspiracy theories unless there is solid evidence to the point. However, when you skip the natural progression of things and you skip through stages, then I become concerned. Late stage clinical trials are important. You need to see how this vaccine will impact people. And so the push is going to be to like just skip over all of that and get it straight to 50 million people to receive an initial shot and a booster and see how that works. And then they'll know whether it is safe or proven effective. The issue with that, of course, is that people could end up having, lost their lives to the vaccine instead of the virus. So we shall see. Novavax claims that they're beginning some sort of early stage safety trials in Australia in May, and it expects to have results available this month on some of that they've already done. Sorry, and that was early stage safety trials. And then phase 3 efficiency trials by the fall of this year, and they may have some interim data by the end of 2020. And the thing is, listen, in order to know if a vaccine is viable, if it works, they've got to test it on somebody. I mean, let's be honest here, right? And we saw just the other day, in fact, that what drug was that they were thinking had some promise, and then after they started looking at the data that was coming in, it turns out that the promise of the drug was just that. What do we say in the Caribbean? A promise is a comfort to a fool. So the actual results of the studies, and again, the studies might not be broad studies, but what they have available, were that this drug was actually not really all that effective at all. I can't remember which one that was now, but we did do an article on that. So let me get back to some of your comments. Carol, Kathy, Jonathan. Yes, I will try to get a response to that answer, Jonathan, despite the fact that we're not in prep briefings. Michael says open to Canada. I've not been paying too much attention, Michael, to Canada, because I guess they've actually been doing okay with their situation. But even, like I said, even opening up to the UK, which we are obviously a UK territory, presents some very difficult challenges for us. Let us be real. Yeah, not a good situation at all. Let me just have a look at some more of your comments. Sue says, no, it's not good in the UK. Mask not mandatory. They're either, so it's so stupid why they don't have to wear them. Alma says that that's not true about the private airplanes. I think some planes are coming in, but they're bringing in equipment or cargo. So a lot of people have been obviously ordering cargo and stuff like that. Because I saw a plane that came in yesterday, and I think that's actually a cargo. It doesn't have any kind of labeling on it, but I think that was actually a cargo flight. But we will ask the question, because there's only one way to know for sure. Larry says that I know a wife who had no symptoms, but gave her husband the virus and he died 2 months ago. Wow, that's sad. Yeah. And there are people who are considered like super spreaders. So for whatever reason, they go into, they just spread it, a lot, but they go into environments like funerals and weddings where there are hundreds of people. And then all of a sudden you're contact tracing 500 people because of potential spread of the virus. Sue says the police shut down a few bars over the weekend for no social distancing. I'm assuming that's in the UK because obviously here in the Cayman Islands, we've had the police trying to keep on top of the situation. And they've been going to bars and warning bar owners as well as patrons, because both can be fined for lack of compliance with the COVID-19 existing provisions and regulations that are in place. And remember what I said to you a couple of days ago, some patrons at a bar in Seymour Drive, which is the Dump Road area. So there's only like 2 bars there, and I think we probably know which one it is. The patrons got very ignorant with the police and tried to fight the police and get aggressive about them trying to enforce the law. I'm telling you, mixing alcohol with stupidity and desperation to just have a drink after COVID-19 is a real serious recipe for disaster. Avatar. Thank you, Kathy. I couldn't think of the word earlier. Sue says, what's wrong with the fools who support the big liar? Oh my God, the things that come out of his mouth are unbelievable. You know, he's an actor and a wannabe businessman at times that has been elected to run what's supposed to be the world's greatest country. So it doesn't take much to see why. And then when you surround yourself with people who are either afraid of you, afraid to speak the truth, or whatever, it only compounds your narcissism and your issues even more. I mean, there's nothing worse than having someone who is surrounded by enablers. And we have talked about this on this program many, many times. Whether it's some of our political leaders who have a lot of demons of their own, who struggle with those issues, not being able to have honest people around them who will say, sir, with all due respect, you have a drinking problem, or you have a womanizing problem, or you have whatever. That level of honesty comes from people who genuinely care about you. And I think that when you're in certain positions, what ends up happening is you have people who are around you for their own benefit. They just want to gain something from the process, right? So they just want to be around you because you give them stuff, or because you're in a position of power, or whatever it is. They're not there genuinely trying to do the right thing. And that's part of the dilemma here, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. I think that at the end of the day, it's tragic, but when you fall into that category, I reckon that you may know that you've got some demons, whether you are in complete denial or not. And then, it does make it worse that you have enablers around you who will not provide you with any degree of honesty. So let's look at a little bit more information here, folks. Sue agrees that he's a narcissist. Yes, a lot of planes were bringing in cargo, food supplies, medical supplies, and so on. Yes. So Sweden, again, they decided to allow the virus to spread, and they weren't really going to do anything about it. Now has Europe's worst outbreak, and the economy has not benefited. One economist said, in fact, they have gained nothing. Imagine. Walt Disney World is scheduled to reopen on Saturday. Again, this is what I'm telling you. The peaks are nowhere near over because of decisions like that. Trump, in terms of immigration, he's having a fight now from Harvard and MIT, who are actually suing the Trump administration about saying that if you're an international student, you cannot do just online courses. You've got to attend the vast majority of your courses in person. And apparently Harvard and MIT are planning to protect their administration, their staff, and their students to go completely online for most of their fall courses. And he's against that. He's also just stopped international students from being able to get a student visa to work. So, as an international student, those of you who've gone to the US, they're very sort of tight restrictions on what you can and can't do. And I remember this because I was an international student. The irony of it is I lived in the States for 15 years, and I did not, as a child, I was there, I just turned 9. I didn't know my immigration status. And apparently my aunt that I was living with never knew much about it either. So it wasn't until I started applying for universities that they were like, hold on, you're an international student. And I'm like, what is that? An international student? I've been here forever. What's an international student? And they were like, your immigration status, the way in which you came into this country is you came in under international student status. And that's the way that you've remained all these years. Nothing has changed. And so we were like, wow. And I'll never forget, I actually won a partial scholarship for my first semester from a law firm. And so when I became aware of this situation, it was like a debate speech thing that I had to give, and I won. They actually did pro bono work for me to try to sort out my residency by way of my aunt because I'd been there for so long. But she didn't know that, I could have applied for residency. And I certainly, as a kid, didn't know anything about it. And the biggest reason why we were trying to get it done is that as an international student, I would be compelled to spend um, something like 4 times the amount of money on my tuition than if I was an in-state student. So you can imagine, right? I'm just a poor kid trying to get my education here. I don't have 4 times the money to pay the international rate. So yes, it was important that we tried to sort that out. But listen, he's now saying that if you're an international student, you cannot get, because as an international student, you're allowed to work in very restricted ways. So I could work on campus and I could have an on-campus job. And there are, listen, some universities in the States are like little micro towns themselves, and the businesses around those universities thrive and survive because of the university student body. So Gainesville, Florida, like any university college or university city environment tends to have a lot of bars in the area, a lot of different businesses, food vendors and everything that support students, housing, apartments. It's a cluster that is built around the university itself. So I went to the University of South Florida, and I was permitted to have an on-campus job until I got my residency. So what that meant is I could do all sorts of things on campus. There's a lot of jobs on campus. And, there are businesses that are permitted to operate on campus. And so they will pay you a little salary and whatever. And it certainly helps to offset the cost of just living. Listen, poor university life, I know the struggle because it was like some days I'm like, I ain't got no money. All I know is tuition is paid for the next semester. I'm good for that. And then you were just hustling to eat and to figure out where your next meal was coming from. And thank God for other students who were in, similar situations or sometimes better situations. They might invite you home if they lived in the state of Florida for the weekend. You could hang out with their family and get a little bite to eat here and there. University students, we lived off of cheap Chinese food and pizza. So we used to go to the, just El Cheapo Chinese restaurant, get a thing of like chicken fried rice, shrimp fried rice, whatever, that could last you a couple days. You had your little refrigerator. If you didn't have like a full apartment and you were in a dorm situation, and then, you were just able to let that stretch a little bit and you did what you had to do. So, back then they used to have the supersized extra large pizzas that 10 of you could order one of those and you could all get at least like 2 slices out of it and a drink. Hey, those are the, that's the life story of a lot of university kids. Sean, hey, Sean, thank you so much for tuning in. Sean says, love watching your shows. You speak on the real issues. Thank you so much. Carol says, for someone descended directly from immigrants to the US who marries a non-US woman, he sure hates anybody who isn't American. It is peculiar, but we're not even going to make this a Trump show because he is, I think the writing might actually be on the wall for him for the next election, but we'll see. So he's pressuring schools in the US to reopen. There's some logic about why children need to get back to this sense of normalcy. Online courses and online training doesn't really substitute for a real classroom environment. We get that. But how do you make this work when you have infections at the highest rates throughout the entire pandemic in the US right now? All of this is going to mean is that you're going to see another wave of infections, another spike. So there's nothing in place. The Trump administration has offered no concrete proposals to help schools pay for testing, COVID-19 testing, implement social distancing, improve ventilations, or anything else to try to prevent or, assist with not spreading the virus once schools have opened. So he's saying, you got to open, but we're not going to help you with anything. We don't know who's going to pay for any measures that you might have to take. None of that. So it's kind of like, what? And then if you don't reopen, he is going to snatch your federal funding from you. It just sounds very illogical and a little crazy. So I don't know what else to say about that. We'll see if they do. Yeah. There's this idea that the virus can be airborne. And I know that we have talked about this before. And it's gaining a little bit of traction as more information becomes available, because it's a real concern, especially when you are in environments like on a plane. And remember now, there is the possibility that an individual could be infectious and totally asymptomatic. They don't know. They could be at the early stages of their infection, so they are not yet shedding a whole lot of their viral load or whatever you call it, but they're still infecting people. They're still touching surfaces, and so even testing those individuals, especially if you're doing the PCI testing, they may not have enough of the viral load in their system to get you a positive test result. And so what that means is you would still permit them to come in. Oh yeah, I've tested negative. You've only tested negative because you're at day 1 of your infection or whatever, right? And your viral load hasn't built up enough to produce a positive test result. So that's concerning. And now the concept that it could actually be spread in the air, like you're just leaving particles behind, is also very, very concerning. And I think a lot of people kind of already suspected this, a lot of researchers. I know that we were having a discussion, it's been at least over a month now, when we were talking about the minister's wife and how engaging in certain types of activity and certain types of exercise actually increases your chances of spreading the virus, right? Because you're like projecting, you're huffing and puffing or whatever. And so that spreads, like what would normally be considered 6 feet of safe distancing becomes, you need to stay 10 feet or 12 feet apart if you're actually jogging or running, because you do not have that degree of protection. So there's a lot of considerations here and a lot of things I think that people need to just be very, very mindful of. This is a new virus, a new type of virus, that there are a lot of things that we just do not know anything about. Yeah. And we're learning as we go along. So this is probably one of the perfect reasons why the risk is so much higher when you're sitting in a bar or inside of a restaurant. It's floating around in the air. One of the suggestions they talk about is better ventilation, better filters. I was watching a program a couple of days ago, I think we might have streamed that on the news, about how the airlines are increasing the quality of the filters, the filtration system that they have on airplanes. And they were actually saying that in some respects, being in an airplane might be safer for you, because they do have to pump in every couple minutes fresh air into the plane, just because of the nature of how a plane is designed, right? And now they're getting these super filters that really try to extract a large 99% of anything that's in the air. Most bars and restaurants, and even sometimes their homes, really have a lot of stagnant air. The air quality is not that great. When was the last time, for example, that you changed your air filters? Just the other day, we changed ours in our house, but before that, I was thinking, I was saying to my husband, it's been a minute that we haven't changed air filters. I think we need to do that. And regular routine, quarterly, and of course, when you're in environments that are public spaces, you will want to ensure that you are doing that more often. So changing out that stuff more often, changing the filters more often, and making sure you have high quality filters, because believe me, not all filters are of the same grade and quality. So they do a less effective job if they're not a good quality filter. So those tiny droplets remaining in the stagnant air can infect people because they're going to inhale it. And apparently now they're saying that there is mounting scientific evidence to suggest that that is very much the case. And the risk becomes higher in crowded indoor spaces with poor ventilation, aka bars and restaurants. And that is why now they're thinking that these super spreading events reported in meat packing plants, churches, and restaurants, that this explains exactly why the viruses are spreading so much more in those environments. So what they don't know yet is how often the virus is spread, because these are the tiny droplets that we're talking about now, or aerosols that will remain in the air. And these are different than the larger droplets that are expelled when a sick person coughs or sneezes. And that's transmitted through contact with contaminated surfaces. So they're airborne micro droplets is what I'll call it, right? Tiny droplets are different, obviously, than the larger droplets. So somebody sneezes, that spreads a long distance, and that goes on surfaces. And then you come a minute later and you touch that surface and you touch your face, whatever. That's how traditionally you get it. But now we know that the micro or tiny droplets are actually staying in the air as well, the aerosols. And so they don't know to what degree that is actually spreading the infection, but they're thinking that it is significant. So listen to this. Aerosols are released even when a person without symptoms. You heard what I just said? Asymptomatic people, pre-symptomatic people who have very little symptoms that they don't even know about, right? They exhale. We all have to breathe, so we all have to exhale. They talk or they sing. These aerosols then go into the air. Over 200 experts have outlined their evidence in an open letter to the World Health Organization. And you can go, I'm going to post a link here. You can go and read this open letter yourself. This is the Clinical Infectious Diseases. And they have said, July the 6th is the date of this, it is time to address airborne transmission of COVID-19. These are professionals. This is in the Oxford Academic website, Clinical Infectious Diseases section. And this is an accepted manuscript. So over 200 doctors have gotten together and they have produced this PDF manuscript. Let me just open it up and I'll tell you how many pages of reading you might have to do. Get a big cup of coffee if you want to read this, because it's not light reading, folks, but you know what? Educate yourselves. Sean says, Sandy, I don't even watch American news anymore. It's too depressing day in and day out. I find watching Canadian news, the national, is more objective and makes me feel more optimistic in terms of when we can get tourists back into the Cayman Islands from North America. At the moment, the US is unfortunately is a no. I would not travel to the US in the next 12 months, but would consider possibly Canada. So we do have a direct flight, I think 1 or 2 direct flights from Canada, I think once or twice a week. There's Air Canada and one other airline, I think, that may have been coming in. So yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I don't think the Canadians make up the largest portion of our visitors. It's definitely the US by a significant number. So, some numbers are better than none, I suppose, at the end of the day. But we will definitely have to have some very serious protocols in place. And the other thing is, a lot of Caymanians enjoy going to Miami. So at what point, if we start to reopen our borders, do we say, okay, the Americans can't come in, but does that mean that Caymanians can't go to Miami and come back on a flight? You probably wouldn't want that either. Once again, given the rate of infections, particularly in the state of Florida. So yes, this PDF document, it's only 9 pages, relatively short actually. I guess they just got to the point. And it basically said that the authors, all published by Oxford University Press for the Infectious Diseases Society of America, have basically said that we appeal to the medical community and to the relevant national and international bodies to recognize the potential of airborne spread of COVID-19. There's a significant potential for inhalation exposure to viruses and microscopic respiratory. I was going to say respiratory. I think respiratory is kind of how the English might say it. But lately I've been hearing it said that way more, and I find now that I'm saying it that way as well. Droplets, micro droplets, at short to medium distances, up to several meters, or room scale. And so we're advocating for the use of preventative measures to mitigate this route of airborne transmission. So even in terms of the pushing of schools to reopen, this made me kind of think, right, what's the plan, Trump? If you're going to tell these, schools that they have to reopen, how is that going to work? I don't know. Are you going to spend the money? That's the question, because a lot of these schools are failing schools. We don't even want to get into the American education system, but a lot of them are failing schools, and they're also struggling with just keeping up basic infrastructure within the schools themselves, just maintaining the buildings. So now you're going to be saying to these schools, find the money to sort out, better ventilation, better filters, implement social distancing, on and on and on, but you're not giving them the money. It's like setting them up for another, they already have an outbreak, but to make it even worse. India had 25,000 new infections in a day. That's a record for them. This is an increase, the first time since March for them as well. So in a lot of places around the world, it's not really looking all that fantastic, to be honest. So in the US, they claim that the death rate is going down, is declining, even though the new infections rate is skyrocketing. But the reports have said that that optimism will soon be coming to an end. It's just that some people, when they get sick with it, they actually hang on for a little while. There have been people who've been sick for months, and then they expire, they die, months after. But they're saying it's just a matter of time because of the lag of about a month between infections and then reported deaths. So they're expecting to see the death rate surge coming up here start to happen in mid-June in the next coming weeks. So American hospitals are under a lot of pressure. They're being forced to convert their regular beds into intensive care units, which means a lot of them are not properly outfitted to be in ICU. Doctors and officials who previously said that they were able to control the spread of the virus because hospitals had enough personal protective equipment, and the antiviral drug remdesivir, that was the one I was thinking of earlier, we did an article on that, but now they're saying that they're running low on the drug, and they have a dire shortage of personal protective equipment and testing supplies. Ironic that despite Trump commandeering testing supplies and even PPE from other countries, now they're still running low. So it just doesn't pay to be mean, right? So listen to this quote from someone. She is Deborah Berger, who's co-president of the National Nurses United, the country's largest organization of registered nurses. Says it's almost 5 months into a pandemic in the richest country in the world, and we're putting people's lives at risk because we don't have enough PPE. Unbelievable. So the current spike in cases is being driven by states that were among the first to reopen their economies, at Times analysis found, and decisions that epidemiologists warned could lead to a wave of infections, and they simply would not listen because it was all about reopening for the sake of the economy and money. And we see now how that is playing out. So crazy, very, very crazy. But that's kind of where we are with the virus. We'll continue to monitor that situation. Let's talk a little bit about some local news. Last night we had a robbery occur. I'm very disheartened to hear this, in fact. Initial reports were that it happened at a bar in, I think it's called Trilogy Building, where the rooftop bar originally started, and now I think someone else has taken it over and they've got it named something else. But there was a robbery, not of the bar itself, the bar's upstairs. The robbery took place downstairs in a little 24-hour convenience store, a little 24-hour mini mart or whatever. And of course, this is sad because, you know, this guy is just like a little small business owner. Not that anyone should be subjected to robbery, but, you know, you feel it a little bit more when it's like a small man just struggling to have a little something. And, you know, this robbery occurred like right after 9:30 at night. It was even like super late, but he does have a 24/7 convenience store. And there was actually someone on the location who was like, I was right outside there with my car and I had no idea that this robbery had even taken place. And they were like clueless. And so 2 armed men went in there and demanded money. I don't know how much money they got, but this is disgusting behavior. And so now we see people willing to return to criminality. You know, and it's not good because it hurts us all when this happens. Absolutely disgusting. So that happened last night. I hope that they catch these culprits, whoever they are, and they throw them in jail for a very long time. Over a week now, I think we're at day number 8, or possibly going into 9, with no new positive cases. This is such fantastic news. We have just got to stay the course, folks. Don't let your guard down. Continue to be vigilant. You know, don't be inclined to try to compel the government or force the government to open early. I mean, come on. It's just not worth the risk. We've done so well. To go back to having to be locked down again would be, I think, psychologically a horrible situation for all of us to be in. I did mention earlier that the funeral service for Mr. Hamity is on this weekend. Hold on one second. I think it's actually Monday. It's the 3rd. No, hold on. No, it's on Thursday. My apologies. It's on Thursday, July the 16th from 10 a.m. And it will be live streamed. The family is asking that in lieu of flowers, which a dead man can't smell flowers, that you make a donation to some of his preferred charities, which includes the Cayman Islands Heart Fund, Jackson Memorial Miami Transplant Institute, or the Cayman Islands Cancer Society. Now, many of you will know that Mr. Hamilton was a heart transplant beneficiary and survivor of that procedure for many, many years. It gave him, I think 20 plus years or more on his life. And ironically, as a former pilot, he actually got the heart of a pilot who had died in a skydiving accident. Isn't that just amazing? So he would always say quite fondly that he had the heart of a pilot, quite literally. Mr. Hamilton's career started off working for Air Jamaica. And then I think in the early 70s, he moved to the Cayman Islands when a lot of Jamaicans, sort of Jamaican middle to middle upper class, were fleeing the country because of all of the political and economic turmoil that was happening in that particular country at the time. They saw milk and honey here in the Cayman Islands, and they decided to come and have a go of it. And a lot of our merchant class companies, and they start up a lot of businesses and stuff, actually are Jamaicans that came during that wave, and they've been here ever since. I mean, we think of like the Burks, for example. They grabbed their money as quick as they could and left Jamaica and came to Cayman and seized a lot of opportunities and started a lot of businesses and stuff like that. So this country has certainly provided, I think, a lot of opportunities for people to grow and to have a lot of business opportunities and stuff. So Tamara, good morning. We got 15 minutes left in our program, so we're just recapping anything in local news that's happening. There are a number of, just trying to see what else is going on here in the Cayman Islands. There are a number of businesses that are starting to reopen. So of course, we know that the driver's licensing department will be reopening pretty much fully on Monday coming, the 13th. And then the following week, they will start on the 20th to administer tests, driving tests. So you can certainly inquire about that. There's another Manila flight coming up by way of the Airbridge British Airways. The governor has made that announcement yesterday. So please, if you're interested in going to the Philippines, you will want to explore those options. And that is happening in early, July 31st. So students and families who are interested in returning to the UK as well, they will want to make sure that they contact the travel time hotline in order to ensure that they secure a spot on that flight. What else is going on? It's Friday. It's Friday. Remember the woman that we had talked about? I think we mentioned this. That had, she had jumped from the hospital or something in Jamaica. Crazy enough. But apparently her family is now blaming the Jamaican authorities for that, saying that had they done a better job of securing her, it would not have happened. Okay. There you have it. So I guess they're going to now sue the government. And we'll see where that goes. So 270 Indian nationals left Cayman on the 6th of July, or a couple of days, I think, before that. Mother Nature, we've talked about this for months, has really appreciated the mini break that she got during COVID shutdown. So the Sandbar and Starfish Point and stuff, those will be reopening soonish, coming up, I think, on the 19th or so. And you know what is so interesting? is that the starfish have already started to replenish. Now, here on CMR, we have a real issue with people who go pick up the starfish and they're taking pictures with them. They see it as a massive photo opportunity. Well, since the lockdown, impressively enough, I don't know where the starfish come from, but it's being reported that there's like an increase in the number of starfish at Starfish Point, which is a beautiful thing. And what would be even more wonderful if we put up additional signage that says, do not touch the starfish or you will be prosecuted and named and shamed on Cayman Mall Road. And if the government, now here's a novel idea, Unity government, take my idea and run with it for free. Set up proper CCTV footage at Starfish Point to catch anyone who lifts a starfish out of the water. Even touching them under the water, you're damaging the starfish, so that's bad enough. But definitely prosecute anyone who takes them out of the water and impacts their ability to survive, because it's negatively impacting that entire ecosystem, that little mini ecosystem for the starfish that is, at that location. So how hard can it be to put up a CCTV camera there with a big sign that says, if you take the starfish out of the water, you will be prosecuted, and we will snap your picture and we'll blast it all over the place as well. I bet you that you would have a decrease in the number of people doing it. Or better yet, let's level up on that idea in terms of technology. Also make it a live feed stream where any of us can go and watch in real time what is happening at Starfish Point and who's taken, so in the middle of the night, I could jump up and go and have a look at it and go, I see you there touching that starfish. And then the authorities will find you and ticket you accordingly. Stingray City has been maintained by the Department of Environment, who have been, feeding the stingrays, keeping them happy in that location. Because, of course, one of the reasons why the stingrays stay there is because they do get fed and they don't have to work for their food. And I guess the question becomes, well, who doesn't want free food? Apparently the stingrays, although they do it to their peril, because I think the overtouching of them has impacted their growth. They're not as big and beautiful and whatever as they used to be. Some of them have actually been injured by boats and stuff as well. But nonetheless, it's a humongous tourist attraction that attracts millions of people to this country. It's one of the few things that we have that is extraordinary in some respects. So the Department of Environment has gone to great lengths to ensure that we continue to feed them so that they can remain fed and happy in place. It has just been discovered that the coral bleaching disease, this coral killer disease, is actually in Cayman waters. So our corals are probably not going to look as pretty as they used to, our reefs, because of this. And apparently this bleaches everything like practically white. There's a lot of questions about what causes it. Could it be the sun tanning, not sun tanning, but sun protectant, like sunscreen contaminants and stuff that are in place? Some jurisdictions around the region have started to block people from using certain types of sunscreens in their jurisdiction, so they don't sell it there anymore. And if people are coming off the ships, they advise them that certain brands that contain chemicals that they know are harmful to the ecosystem, the underwater ecosystem, are blocked as well. So Women's Dive Day is coming up. So if you're in the diving world, this is coming up on, let me see here, what day is that? July the 18th. And last year, you guys remember that we shared something on our website where they actually broke a world record by forming a chain of more than 100 divers underwater, of female divers. And this was quite an accomplishment. And so now they're in the world record book, I think, for that. And so I don't know if they're going to do the same challenge this year or not. because of course they're supposed to keep a distance between them. So we'll see kind of how that works. We'll see. So a lot of dive operators, you know, are certainly looking to even reopening for locals. Listen, there's absolutely nothing that would stop you from going out diving right now. There is a restriction that you have to have. You can't share the what's it called? The like the mouthpiece that you put in. I think you can share a tank, but anything that's gonna like go in your mouth, be around your face or whatever. There's certain bits and pieces of the equipment that you cannot share because it puts you at greater risk of catching anything that someone else has. So Sean says, I'm very impressed to be shopping at Foster's and A.L. Thompson's and seeing people wearing masks. I think we have a great degree of compliance here and observing social distancing. Very proud of the Cayman Islands, and we should stay the course. And I'm not a person who enjoys wearing a mask. So as soon as I get outside, I can maintain my distance, or even sometimes inside. Like yesterday, I was at Price Right, and I was all the way in the back by myself. There was no one anywhere near me because it was relatively empty, actually. And I took off my mask for a few seconds just to breathe, because it is challenging to breathe. But then when I started to walk and I saw people coming a little bit closer, I put it back on. So yes, I mean, the law says, you know, you wear your mask if you cannot maintain the 6 feet minimum distancing. But if you can be further than that, then you don't necessarily need to wear the mask. But I think there's a lot of compliance with people traveling with their mask. I have more than one. The baby has 2. And so, you know, we make sure that we take those with us wherever we go. And folks, wash your mask. Make sure that you're disinfecting and washing your mask properly on a regular basis. And if you have the disposable ones, because I see a lot of people with those little cheap disposable paper thin ones, you have to throw those out often. Like, they shouldn't be used 24/7 for an entire week. They're good for, like, I think 4 hours of use at a time. And then they get because they're made of paper, they get moist and wet from the paper, and then they're not as they're easily penetrated. So you need to be cautious using those and just being sensible about when to discard them. So Janice says, hi, Sandy. I'm almost 7 years old. Congratulations, Janice. I have COPD and I take this virus very seriously. I stay in my house only to leave maybe once every other week to grocery shop. I only wish everyone the best in getting through this terrible crisis, and thank you for continuing to keep us informed. You're welcome, Janice, and please stay safe. And there's a lot of people with respiratory issues that need to be concerned because they have a compromised immune system. There are people with all sorts of immunity-related issues that need to definitely be concerned. And remember, early on, we reported people dying from this who had underlying health conditions that they knew nothing about. So they were cancerous and didn't know it. And bodybuilders have gotten this, and nothing, you know, the picture of health, and it has devastated and ravished their bodies. So do not take this for a joke, despite the fact that we have been extremely fortunate. Sean, speaking of A.L. Thompson's, I saw a discussion in the women's group talking about A.L. Thompson's charging the delivery fee. So listen, we reached out to Alti, and he said that that will be the cost of doing business going forward with them, because for many years they did delivery for free of charge, and other competitors such as Cox and other people were charging a delivery fee. So they're going to continue to charge the delivery fee, and they deliver all over the island. I think it's the exact same fee no matter where you're at. I'm not too bothered by it, to be honest, because listen, if I go to Price Right, cost you last night, I purchased, you know, a piece of furniture or a mattress or whatever, something that's large and I cannot transport in my own car. I need to arrange, because they don't have delivery service, I need to arrange to have that delivered. And in most cases, I'm going to be paying a delivery company to deliver that for me. If you don't have access to a truck or a friend who's willing to help you out, it just is what it is. So I think it's fair to expect a delivery fee. I think what has happened is people have gotten so used to not having to pay it that now that A.L. Thompson's has implemented it, it's kind of like, oh, shocker, what are you doing? Why are you charging me a delivery fee? Listen, even the shipping companies, if you order from them and they're going to take it from their warehouse or their facility to your house, they're going to charge you a delivery fee, folks. So I'm not so sure why people feel a way about it. It is what it is. And hats off to Alti, because A.L. Thompson during the pandemic did not let anyone go. They continued to pay staff despite the fact that they were closed for quite a minute. Yeah. And that's families that continue to be able to eat and, feed their families. So there's a Texas woman who actually delivered triplets after battling coronavirus. Oh my gosh, the babies are so cute. Of course, they're in the NICU. They're wearing little t-shirts that say, I'm rocking the NICU like a boss. My goodness, they're so adorable. But yes, she actually was positive and thankfully was able to deliver her babies after she beat COVID-19. And it's just amazing to hear, positive stories like this. It makes you warm and fuzzy all over. That number one, she survived, because so many people are not surviving this, folks. Seriously. And she was 28 weeks pregnant with triplets when she got the terrifying news that she had COVID-19. She never showed any coronavirus symptoms, but she got the positive results on May the 8th when she went to the Women's Hospital in Houston, Texas, and they tested her because she was considered a high-risk pregnancy. Again, because she's having triplets, I'm sure. So when she was admitted for observation and they were monitoring her and the babies, they decided to test. And she said that, in fact, she had not left her house since March. So she just thought that the coronavirus test would have been a routine precaution. She was even worried about having it. You haven't left your house since March, April, and then you go in May. She's like, I'm not going to have this. So she says that she was so shocked. She couldn't believe it. And apparently her husband also tested positive, and he was also asymptomatic. So this is what I'm telling you about the numbers, right? If someone like this lady was not going in to have triplets, they, would not have known that they had it. But her mom and her 5-year-old son, who have all been together and lived in the same household, tested negative. And so then they had to, of course, quarantine her whilst pregnant with triplets. She could only FaceTime her family and so on because of, again, the added risk. So absolutely amazing. She was tested regularly in the hospital. And then by the time she reached her 32nd week on June the 4th, she got her second negative test result, which indicated that she was free of the virus. And then life can just throw this at you, throw that at you, just keep coming. So as she was like, yay, I'm corona-free virus, that same day, that same morning, her ultrasound actually showed that one of the babies had her umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. So you can imagine. So then they had to deliver the babies by emergency C-section that afternoon. She had a girl and 2 boys, and they are all healthy and in the NICU. One was 2.1 pounds, one baby was 3.11 pounds, and another one was 3.7 pounds. So they're said to be doing well, they're healthy, and they're growing as can be expected for premature babies. And, their weight will come in time, hopefully. And so now within the first month of their life, she says that they have doubled in their weight, which is really important for babies in the NICU. Putting on as much weight as possible is extremely important for them to get out of the NICU and to go home to their families. But again, this just shows you the scary part, of the situation, really. So yes, folks, that's all we've got for you today. Press briefing will be on this afternoon. So please tune in for that, 2:00. Remember now we're only having once weekly press briefings. And mothers are saying, listen, if they have to wear masks while giving birth to their babies, no one should feel a way about wearing a mask in the grocery store or anywhere else. Some Americans have gone berserk. You see these videos float around where they've gone a little bit crazy, refusing to wear a mask, and then they get aggressive and crazy about it, banging down the doors and cursing, going on like mad people. It's like, come on, folks. It's really not all that. Just put on the mask, go grab your few groceries and get out and go back home where you don't have to wear a mask. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Friday. The weekend is here. Enjoy your weekend, please. People are out and about. Please be safe. People are, all over the roads now, driving like they bought not even like they bought their driver's license. I always say they're driving like they won it in the Cracker Jack boxes. You know how we used to get little Cracker boxes and they had little prizes on the inside? You don't have to do anything to earn it. You just buy the Cracker box. That's how people are going on. Like they don't know how to drive. So let's try to be sensible with our driving, please, by all means. In any event, enjoy the weekend, folks. It is a beautiful one so far. The sunshine, barely a cloud in the sky. I haven't seen my little Gucci friend yet. I don't know if he snuck by already and I just didn't see him. But again, support local businesses, support Miracle Brokers, support Burger King, Popeyes. These companies are here for you. And we will be here on Monday morning. If anything breaking happens over the weekend, of course, we will bring you that information. And sometimes I like to just do a live for like 5 minutes to say hey to everybody, like just checking in the weekend. So sometimes we do those as well. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Please be safe. And 2:00 will be the government press briefing.
Miracle Brokers is back. That's right. We're fully reopened and back to work. Our agents are here to serve you with all of your packing and shipping needs. Need to move? Don't worry. Give us a call today. Collect a package, shipping around the world, or straight to Cayman? You got it. Give us a call on 949-5989. Collection by personalized appointment only, where our dedicated agents are on standby to personally assist you. Don't forget to wear your mask, maintain social distancing, and one person per appointment. Check us out at miraclebrokers.com today. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.